Oh, hello, fellow carbon units. We are carbon units. I never understood the whole carbon thing. What the hell are they talking about? Carbon units. We're water, or something like 90% water, or something like that. But there was a Star Trek movie that said we're carbon units. CARBON. I'm not too sure about that. There are a lot of other ingredients. Hello all, it's May 23rd, 2023. It is about 9 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, southeastern Pennsylvania. This new rotary wing company, or rotary wing / drone company, they're getting ready to move in here. You can see that. Crud. Well, I talked to my son for the first time in a month or more. My youngest son in Phoenix. Very uncomfortable, very awkward. Damn shame. He's off living his own life, and apparently that excludes me. So that's the case. Men. There's all kinds of stories, I'm sure, about. Oh, the sun is getting bright. I forgot my regular glasses, so I'm wearing these today. About a breakup of a family, being a single father, paying child support, having to support yourself at the same time, getting out of debt and everything. It was a monumental, challenge that was like right in my face. All of a sudden. And I'll tell you what, I came through with shining stars and colors. I came through like gangbusters, man. I surprised myself how well I did. And where I came from financially and where I ended up. At 46 years old, to start a new career, the odds are against you to do anything meaningful. Well, I didn't only do something meaningful. I paid, as I'm paying child support and going through a divorce, I paid off close to $50,000 in credit card debt, and I built a house, a brand new house. And of course, when the world financial crisis hit in 08 and 09, and all those bankers raped our country and snuck out the back door with their bags of money, huge bags of money, I lost my career at Bell. And I gotta let some air in here. I hope no bugs. And so it was like starting from scratch. And at that point, I'm 60 years old. Oh, excuse me. At that point, I started trying to learn how to be an investor. And that took a lot of time. A jet just took off. The wind was from the east, and he took off on runway 9. Boy, he went straight out, too. I'm slipping. I should have gotten that, I should have seen it happening in my rearview mirror, but okay. Tell you one thing, it seems to me like jets have solved the noise problem, I mean, that wasn't bad. That wasn't disruptive or anything. Okay, so, anyway, all that said, I stayed close with my children as they were growing up. I was involved with them all the way through college. All 3 of them. And there's a lot of effort there. But, I enjoyed it because they were my children, my family. And now, they've all drifted away. They don't stay in touch. They're out living their own lives, and that's okay. you know, if that's the way it goes. It's just that I see a lot of other families that like they're really a lot closer, close knit, and it makes me sad that we're not like that. But I stop the sadness at the initial point. I don't let the sadness overcome me or overwhelm me because I've paid my dues. Okay, I have been there for them for their entire life, and even now, you know, they got all three of them got their own lives, and they don't stay in touch with me. So okay, you know, that's free will. You can't automatically make yourself immune, you know, from the concept, the idea. You see other families that are much closer. I mean, they're involved with each other all the time, and that's missing and absent from my family situation, and it hurts. You know, it hurts, but I'm way past the point of thinking I can fix it. Yeah, there was a time when I thought I could fix anything. And God gave me a wake-up call about that. But 26 years ago right now, it's May 23rd, 1997. And I was working I was working 60 hours a week on a part-time and a full-time minimum wage, no benefits jobs. So I was driving a courtesy shuttle for Saturn during the day, and this is Monday through Friday, and then at night I worked in the telemarketing call center at Intermedia Marketing in Westchester. Both jobs were minimum wage, no benefits. I had to have cash. I mean, I couldn't screw around. Excuse me. Bills come due every 30 days. Child support, utilities, of course, credit cards are like $600-700 a month, and just minimum payments, nothing more than that. So everybody was telling me, you're doomed to be in credit card debt. Everybody's saying you got to declare bankruptcy. I didn't like that idea, and I never would like the idea. It's a foul word, you know, and it gets attached to you. You know, you declared bankruptcy. Well, maybe it's the Irish part of me that doesn't like it. That's possible. A lot of people can just declare bankruptcy. A good friend of mine did that at Bell, and it was intentional, and he took advantage of a loophole in the system. Good for you. For me, my own self-esteem just wouldn't allow me to do everything I can to avoid bankruptcy, and that includes working 60 hours a week, minimum wage, no benefits. However, I had applied for a job for a videographer with a firm that collects evidence for lawyers, doing depositions. Anybody that knows anything about videography is that there's no easier gig than that. You just set up the camera on a tripod, you read a statement to the person that's deposing, and away they go. And you just get that video. I had applied for a job. It was in the want ads for from the Daily Local News in Westchester, and which I couldn't believe, because you just don't see videographers in the job want ad section. You just don't. It never happens, because it's a pretty simple task. But in the legal world, when somebody's doing a deposition, there's all these standards that come into play, and you got to be aware, because if you get something wrong, you got to go back and do it all over again, and that's the problem this company had. So they advertised for a part-time videographer. Well, I had so much experience. I was doing videos at weddings. I had done videos in a tremendous extent, to a tremendous degree, when I worked at the community college of Delaware County. So I knew videography, and to a large extent I still do. The main thing is you got to make sure that you're getting what you're taping, and so you do redundancy and tape. I mean, I was perfect for the job, and it was a part-time job. When I saw it, I thought, this is my job. I got to be able to get this. And I kept on, and after the interview, and the interview went really well, I kept on pressuring myself. You've got to get this. You've got to get this. The only problem was that the hiring manager was 16 years younger than me. And that, for whatever reason, is a big red flag. It's called age discrimination, but it's rampant, and it's embedded in our culture and in our species and in our society. So I'm waiting to hear about this job, and I don't hear, and I call them, and they won't tell me, and I call them, they won't tell me. Part time. Keep that in mind. Okay, this is not a solution to my financial problems, but it gives me an entrance into the legal world, and there's all kinds of money in the legal world, lots of money, and so now I can tap that market. Hopefully, that's my thinking anyway. Well, on my oldest son's 10th birthday, May 29th of '97, I find out that I didn't get the job, and it didn't crush me, but it definitely reset, like a reset button. And I was in my car after I got the news, and I was staring out the windshield up at the sky, and I called it an Annie Leibovitz sky. Not too much different than what's here, but actually it was different. It was a clear ceiling, but it was very soft lighting, and a cottony, puffy cloud overcast. And there's a beauty to that, and a serenity to it. I call Annie Leibovitz sky because she was the master of soft lighting for portraits and stuff like that. I'm staring at the sky, and then this came from God, this next piece. It was like a divine intervention in a way, because three thoughts immediately crowbarred their way into my head. Number one, I'm going to be poor the rest of my life. I'm 46, and I'm bored. I'm on the brink of bankruptcy. I'm working all kinds of, at 46, I'm working 2 minimum wage jobs, but I'm working, okay? So there's a lot to be said for that. And don't discount the fact that somebody's going to a minimum wage job if they've got higher goals and higher aspirations. And of course I did, but I kept on coming up empty. So anyway, May 29th of 97, I just realized that here's a guy with a backhoe right next to me. Just stay away from my car, please. Well, anyway, I realized. So I got the news. I didn't get the stupid part-time job, and I'm resolved. And these things, I wasn't looking to have this thought process and these subjects in mind, but number one, I'm going to be poor the rest of my life. And I didn't really care. I said, as long as I keep trying, I've got my health. If you got your health, you got everything. Seriously, you do. Even at 46. Especially at 46. Right, so, and I just accepted that. And I said, I'm probably going to be buried in a pauper's grave like my grandfather, unmarked. I said, well, I don't care about that shit anyway. After I die, I'm gone. My corpse is somebody else's problem, not mine. So that was the second thought. And the third thought, the second thought was, I'm not going to give up on my children. I'm not going to abandon them just because I'm having trouble financially and professionally. I'm gonna be the Rock of Gibraltar for them, and I was. And they don't appreciate it, and I don't really care, because it's more important to me than it is to them, I would think. So I was determined not to let them down. That was my second thought. And then the third thought, I'm done with photography. After, 23 years or something like that? 20 years. After about 20 years. That's a long time to be on a profession, let me tell you. Long time. 70, 78, 79. Right around 20 years. So, and that was like a liberating moment, because photography, running my own business like I had been, like every day you're hoping you get a contract and a check in the mail so you can pay your bills that month, and you're running to the mailbox to find out if somebody signed up with you. And let me tell you, that gets old real fast, because when it doesn't happen, it's just so disappointing and dejecting, and it's a blow to your confidence too, because you see your ship sinking. Well, I didn't wait till the ship sank all the way. I just abandoned ship at that point. However, I would still be doing photography. When people would seek me out to do a wedding, and then I had an unbelievable aerial photography opportunity. I'll visit later, but for the time being, at that moment, May 29th of 97, I'm done with photography. It was just like this load was lifted off my shoulders. It felt great. Now, and people say, oh, you must have been devastated. I was not devastated. 93 in my divorce, I was devastated. But this was more like, okay, what are you going to do? What am I going to do right now? And then how about 2 or 3 months from now? Well, right now, I wanted to take up more of my time working. So I'm working part-time at night with the telecom company. They approached me a number of times if I wanted to work the graveyard shift. So my regular shift goes from 7 to 10:30, and then there's a graveyard that goes from 10:30 to 2:30, and you're not on the phone, you're doing data entry. And they don't pay any more money, you're still getting minimum wage, but you're going to be working at 2:30 in the morning. I thought, why not do that? When I leave at 10:30, I'm going home to a dark and empty house, and I don't have any energy to do anything else. So why not stay till 2:30 in the morning, get a little extra money, and not have as much spare time in my hands? What the hell? And so that's what I did starting that night, and it was wonderful. Even though I had no medical insurance yet for me or my children. So so that night I started working until 2:30 in the morning at Intermedia Marketing, and then I had to be at Saturn the next morning at 7:30. And I'm working 80 hours a week now, minimum wage, no benefits. Think about that. But I had money to pay every one of my obligations. So the whole month of June goes that way, and then something miraculous happens at the end of June, the beginning of July. I can't even begin to tell you how miraculous. To this day, I'm stunned by the sequence of events that took place. And my entrance into Bell Atlantic, I'm telling you, man. And when the guy I was working with on the graveyard, Steve Tudor, suddenly he disappears after a month. I tried to get his contact information, and they wouldn't give it to me because they can't release information on employees that leave the company. And I was pissed because I knew he found something good. But he comes back a week later to work a day or two to get some cash. And I bump into him. And I said, where'd you go? And he told me. And I said, can you give me a number and a name? And he does. And I call this number and the name. And within 3 days, they hire me over the phone at Bell, giving me a 60% raise. Okay, it doesn't sound like much. But my compensation went from minimum wage to $12 an hour. That's 60%, 60%. Now, $12 an hour obviously wouldn't be enough, to buy a toothpick nowadays. But then it was such an because, and then plus I get full medical benefits for me and my children on the first day I start, which would have been July 24th of 97. I just couldn't believe what happened. In like a 2 or 3 day period, I went from minimum wage, 80 hours a week, no benefits, to working with a Fortune 100 company on a 60% raise. And then when I got hired over the phone, the HR person who I love, Marietta Marquardt, man, she is just so wonderful of a person, just incredible. She says to me, after she hires me, after a role play over the phone, she says, $12 an hour. Oh, and you should easily be able to double that, Jerry, with our bonus and commission structure. I was like, I'm going from minimum wage to $25 an hour with full medical benefits for me and my children? Whoopee! And the whole thing here, if you guys want to do some research, it is an amazing transformation with the telecom industry. The Telecom Act of 1996, it couldn't have been better for me anyway, and for a bunch of other people. What an education it was for me. And then she says, okay, so within 3 days of me reconnecting with this guy that left, I'm hired. And she gives me all this stuff, okay, benefits, full medical benefits, and then a huge increase in pay. Oh, I know. And then she says, yeah, we're going to pay you $12 an hour for 6 weeks of paid training. I thought I was in the Twilight Zone, I swear. I said 6 weeks of paid training? She goes, yeah, we're going to train you on, what you're going to be talking to your customers about, and that includes the internet and high-speed data, and we're just going to give you the high view. And I said, but I have to be sure I understood you there. There's 6 weeks of training, right? And she says, yes. And I said, I'm going to be paid through that training, right? And she goes, yes. 6 weeks of paid training. I challenge anybody to match that story where you went from a minimum wage job. And my sister-in-law, I told her about it. She'd been a waitress her whole life. I said, apply. This is a chance to learn some cool stuff and make lots of money. She did, and she did, and she did. She applied. She learned all kinds of cool stuff, and man, we both made good money, really solid money. And Telecom Act of 1996 is the catalyst for all this. And it was a bill signed by Bill Clinton and proposed by a Republican from Wyoming or something like that. But it deregulated the baby bells, the local and regional calling and data transport. It opened it up to competition, and Bell Atlantic was caught flat-footed, and they decided they better hire a bunch of people to talk to their small and medium business accounts and let them know that, we appreciate their, to do relationship selling is really what it was. But for the first 2 years, selling wasn't a big deal. After that, it was. So the Telecom Act of 1996, how do I know God was involved? There's too many coincidental things. The Telecom Act of 1996. The the ad for the videographer, which is impossible. It never happens. You don't ever see videographers solicited through want ads. You just don't. There's so many ways to find a decent videographer that, going through the want ads, it doesn't seem like a good idea. But that's what this company did, and it was with the legal profession, and that's money, and that's why I was so attracted to it. But okay, I know. Well, I walked out of UPS on the first day of the year, or the second day of the year of 1997, because of age discrimination. I just walked off the job. I've been with UPS, and that was for cash and full medical benefits for my kids and me. Part-time, but like part-time from 3 in the morning to 8 in the from 3 o'clock in the morning. Get that, make sure that register. I got to be at work at 3 o'clock in the morning to do the most difficult physical job on the planet. So I walked that. So here are the coincidence. Here are the serendipitous things, the dominoes that fell. Telecom Act of 1996, that had to happen. I had to walk off the job at UPS. I had to get the job at Saturn because that's where I read about the videographer job. Then I had to, this videographer job had to become available. That's 4. I had to be turned down for that, which was highly unlikely. That's 5. I had to start at the graveyard with IMM. That's 6. Steve Tudor had to come back for 3 days to IMM for me to get the information about the contact for the job at Bell Atlantic. That's like 7. There's like 7 or 8 impossible coincidental things. Like impossible. So I attribute that all to God. God somehow assigned an angel to me or something. Now, the rest of my life, I had a 13-year career at Bell, and there's a lot of bumpy places in there, and professionally, it was great. Socially, it was a wreck. I met somebody, and I was with that person for a while, and it was just a disaster. But I don't let anything stand between me and my professional identity or success. Nothing stands between me, because that's my commitment to my children. And now they've really pretty much forgotten about me. But hey, you know what? It would be worse if I didn't feel good about the way I conducted myself during those incredibly difficult. Nobody understands how difficult it was. Nobody gets. My father would. He would. Because of what he went through. I guess that's one of the few things that we could understand each other about. Being being a breadwinner and the main pillar of support for your children. I would say family, but that would include my ex-wife, and I stopped supporting her, and the last child support payment was in 2009. So from 93 to 2009, was that 17 years? What is that? 16 years. 16 years. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to relate that story, and this is like for the next couple of weeks, it's a real adventure. Actually, for the next 2 months, it's just incredible. You can talk around with anybody that your friends, anybody, and I challenge you to come up with a story like that. I mean, it's rags to riches, obviously, but thing is, I had a professional identity for myself, and I understood what that meant. I know what it means to be a professional. A lot of people don't. You'd be amazed, like how many people don't get that. You can't claim to be a professional and be laissez-faire and ambivalent and apathetic towards your profession of choice. It should be a passion. You should identify. And you can't believe how many people don't get that. They don't get it. Well, I encountered, when I went there, first of all, Bell Atlantic didn't hire me directly. They had to outsource the beginning of this initiative to, a company that had telecommunications experience, or not telecommunications, call center experience. It was a call center. But we're making outbound calls to businesses that are already our customers. You can't get a better gig than this. At least I couldn't at this stage. It just is unbelievable, man. Because they were worried about losing their customers, so their first effort was going to be retention. Now that, they had a monopoly. Anyway, as far as my personal experience is concerned, I consider it a miracle that God had had extra benevolence towards me and extra assistance towards me, because I think I was accepted my responsibilities and didn't shirk them, even though there was some difficult things to accept. But when it comes right down to it, child support is really a needed and integral part of a divorce situation, because it costs money to raise kids, folks, and a lot of guys don't get that. Oh, my wife takes the money, she goes out and buys a pair of earrings for herself. She's also taking care of your children, dude. And if you were to hire somebody, it would cost you a lot more. If you were to hire somebody to do what your ex-wife is doing for your kids, you couldn't afford it. I guarantee you couldn't afford it. Look at daycare, man. It's like real expensive, and the people that work at daycare centers don't make much. So anyway, that's the story. I wanted to relate that because it's a magical 60-day period. So today is the 23rd. So we go to June 23rd and July 20th. I was officially hired on July 24th, 1997 by Telespectrum, although I had a Bell Atlantic email address. So it was obvious that Bell Atlantic was going to take over this channel as soon as it was up and running. They couldn't get it going. Bell Atlantic has no call center. They didn't need a call center. They had a monopoly. Okay, monopoly, a true, absolute monopoly. Anybody doesn't understand that? Oh, okay. One of the Bell technicians that goes out to your house to check your phone lines was rude to you. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That's too bad. Maybe you should go to our competition and see if you can get better treatment. Oops, we don't have any competition. There is no competition. Well, you could complain to the Public Utility Commission, You can complain to those guys, but good luck with that. That's not gonna go anywhere, because those guys, the PUC, is staffed and manned by former employees of the telephone company. So they're giving the telephone company anything they ask for. Anyway, take care. I hope you have a great day. Memorial Day is coming up. I hope you have a good holiday to look forward to, and peace.